Well, welcome back to Loch Arbor Astro and another wee tutorial. This time I'm going to be looking at stretches and primarily at GHS or Generalised Hyperbolic Stretch. It's a slightly different way of stretching your stacked images, and it's got the ability to pull out more of the background and fainter dust, etc. in the images. And what I'm going to do is I've got this luminance image up on the screen at the moment, which has got an STF stretch applied to it. It's already been through, it was already cropped anyway during stacking. It's had the automatic background extraction process done on it. Linear fit has been done on all four of the, you can see down in the bottom right hand corner there's the RGB versions of the same image. And I've also applied the blur exterminator to it. So it's been through all of the linear processes that I would normally do in my workflow, and now it's come to the stretch. So what I'm actually going to do to start off with is just do a normal histogram transformation type stretch and bring it out to the parameters that I was using before GHS came along. And then I'll do another one using GHS itself, and then we'll compare the two. If you want further information about this or a more detailed tutorial, then they are available online. And Adam Brock does a very good version, and that's where I've got most of my techniques from. It's worth saying that with GHS, I don't think there's a right and a wrong way to use it. It's a tool that you can use as you see fit. You can stretch the images as much as you want to. You might do it in one iteration, it might take 3 or 4 iterations to actually achieve what you're looking for from an image. And if you're doing like I will be in the next video, where I'm doing an LRGB image, then the stretch for the L channel or the luminance channel will be different from what it is for the red, green and blue channels as well. So there's no right or wrong way of doing it. I'm just going to demonstrate how I have learnt to use this particular tool. So without further ado, I'll remove the STF stretch from the image and bring up the histogram transformation. Well, first thing I'm going to do is actually clone. There we go. And I shall use the cloned version as the histogram transformation. So I select that as the old clone and then bring up the preview window. So all I'm going to do is take this, the midpoints, and bring it across so that I can start to see things emerge from the darkness. Bring it out to about there, and then zoom in using the roller wheel on my mouse, and then enhance it a wee bit more. And I'll leave it there for a first stretch and just apply that. And then we're going to reset, and because I'm zoomed in, you see there's already the one piece of data right on the left hand side there. So I'm not going to bring the dark point down at all. So I'm just going to leave that where it is, because otherwise I'm cutting data out, which is what you don't want to do. So now that it's been stretched, you can see where all the other data is in there, and I'll bring it back out, zoom right back out. And then for the second stretch, I'm just going to take the midpoint there, and I'm going to bring this out to about 25% on the top histogram. So 25% is that line there, 50, 75. And bring it out so that the peak of the histogram is sitting on the 25% mark, and that's normally where I would put these. So you can darken stuff down again, but you can't drag more data out after you've stretched it. So that's where I want to be. That's what you're looking at for the actual stretch itself. And I'm going to apply that and then reset. So there we are. That's your standard histogram transformation stretch. It might be a little bit on the bright side. If I zoom in on it, yeah, zoomed in, you can see that there's not very much detail actually in the center of the galaxy. So I could bring that out a wee bit more. Just pull it down. Oops. Helps if I'm looking at the live preview. Again, I can select the box here and put that around the nucleus of the galaxy so I can see what's going on. And pull that back out. Starting to get some stuff in there now. So I'm going to apply that and just leave that where it is. So that's, you can see that's pulled that back down quite a bit. Oh, no, there we go. That's a reset. So it's just dragged it down a wee bit there. Just makes it a little bit better. So that's a standard histogram transformation stretch. So we'll leave that to one side for a moment, and we'll move on to GHS. So I'll put a link to where you can get hold of GHS in the description down below the video. Again, I've got it as a process icon on here, but once it's loaded, it's in one of your repositories. For ghsastro.co.uk/updates is what you put in to the repositories. Just add a new one in there, add that web address in, click OK, and then come up to updates again, check for updates, and it should download both the script itself, which is found under scripts, utilities, and then Generalised Hyperbolic Stretch, or it will also download the process, which is what I'm working on now, and that goes into all processes, Generalised Hyperbolic Stretch, and it's probably in one of these titles as well somewhere. I'm not sure which one it's in though, because I don't use those. I just go for the straight alphabetical order of all the processes. So when you open it up, you get this window here. Make sure that you've got the image that you're working on selected, and then you can open up a preview, and everything that we'll do will be worked off the preview. So we've got the histogram here. You can zoom in, zoom back out again, or you can zoom in, that takes you to full zoom 250, or you can either type a number in here and zoom in so I can go into 50 if I want to, come back out to 5 or just 1. It's up to you. So you can zoom using these buttons here. The readout I generally don't touch any of this stuff here. this send to SP, so is your symmetry point. SP stands for symmetry point, and you'll see that down here, SP. And the buttons that we actually use, or the sliders that we use, are this little bunch here. And there's a fine adjustment parameter slider here, and you just select out of any of these which one you want to use. So D is your stretch factor, small b is your local intensity, SP, and then you protect shadows, protect highlights. And all that does is just slows down what you the speed at which these sliders move backwards and forwards. On the histogram itself, you've also got sliders here, and you can manually pull them across and manually put them back again, and you'll see that when you do it actually on this on the standard one here, when I pull it across, you'll see that the symmetry point number increases. I'm pulling the symmetry point across, and if I pull the white point down, you'll see that the protect highlights moves. So it's all interconnected. So you've also got this transformation type. You've got generalized hyperbolic, which is what we'll be using the most. But the other two that that you tend to use is first off is the linear setting, which allows you to adjust the black point, and the midtone transfer, which is very much like the histogram transformation, where it actually moves the midpoints. So that's going over the operation of it. And what we do with this is we take it in very small steps. So the first one is to zoom in and see where we are. This peak that we've got here, it's quite close to the edge. This will be your 0 point, and you see that the peak actually starts going up. And we're about 0.0056 in from the 0 point, so it's there's not much black in there at all that we can get rid of. If this was way over on this side here, then you would I'd probably go into linear and then bring that across. You just bring the slider across to where you want it. What you want to try and do is you've got this low clip figure here. You want to try and avoid clipping any data, so it's not really worth bringing anything in there at all. So we'll just reset that and leave it where it is. So for the first stretch, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this side here and just click on it, and you'll see this yellow line has appeared, and the value of 0.000225 is where that is on the bottom run here, and that's your symmetry point. So to send that symmetry point down here, I press send, and there you go, it's now changed to 225. So what we're going to do is this basically, Adam Brock describes it as basically this is the sky, and over here is the more of the detail. So what I'm doing is I'm taking it to just on the black side of the sky, but I'm going to, as I increase the stretch factor, everything's going to start stretching. So as I bring it up, I zoom out, then I can see what I'm doing, but you'll see that this parabolic curve starts to move as I increase it up, and as I bring the value up, you can see that as well as this slot starts to become visible, then the peak starts moving to the right, and the red line now is from that point there right the way along the top, so that's hitting a value of 1 all the way along the top until it gets about there, and then it drops off. That's why these areas here look a little bit blown out. So if I pull that right out, so I'm bringing everything out, and then you come down to the local intensity. Now this will be your second movement, and what this does is brings this red line back down again, brings down the local intensity, and watch what happens as I'm doing that. See, it stops the brighter parts of the image from blowing out, and I'm going to bring that to pulling everything out there. I'm going to say for the first stretch then I'm quite happy with that. I've got all of this faint dust around the outside of the nebula there, sorry, the galaxy has been brought out, so I'm happy with that, so I'm going to apply it. Reset, and this is where we are now. So if I want to, there's several ways of doing this, but I prefer to use the screen here to set your symmetry point again. Say I want to bring out, if I zoom in on the center of the galaxy there, if I want to bring out, say, this type of dust here, when I click on that point there, that's where the symmetry point is for that dust. So if I send that across, that changes the symmetry point there. So everything, when I stretch this time, everything this side of that is going to be pulled out. So I'm going to increase the stretch factor slightly, not by much. You see we're starting to get a parabolic curve here. Now, as I go for the local intensity again, it's going to stretch the data out a bit. And you see that the contrast is changing, so the lanes within, the dust lanes within the galaxy are starting to become slightly more prominent. Now if the nucleus starts to blow out, then that's where those protect highlights comes in. I can just grab that and bring it down. It will only go down as far as where the symmetry point is. You see? So it will come down as far as the symmetry point if I want it down that far. If I don't, I'm just protecting the highlights, but I'm keeping all of that data in there. And again with the shadows, I can bring that up, bring the shadows up, and just increase the brightness in the background. And that's bringing out more detail. So if I'm happy with that, reset. Now for this next one, I'm actually going to try and illuminate a bit more of this dust on the background there. So I'm going to click there, and you see that this time the symmetry point is a lot closer. So send that across, a little tweak, and you see everything is increasing here. So I've not even got up to 1, and now I'm going to use the local intensity. I'm going to try and stretch this histogram out further along this way. And you see it's starting to blow out now. So again, protect the highlights and bring that back down. So I'm trying to pull the detail in the dust out in the background there. And the good thing is that if you're not happy with it, I can pull that back to there. If you're not happy that the symmetry point's in the right place, then you've got this fine adjustment down here. And you see it's set on SP for symmetry point. So if I start moving this, you see it is moving the symmetry point, but very, very finely, and you can hardly see anything happening actually. So come back and into the middle there, because if I grab that and grab at the symmetry point up here, you can see it makes a bigger difference. So actually coming out, putting the symmetry point back into here, actually creates a bit more visible dust, and just increase the protection on there and leave that about there. So there we go. Reset that, and then let's have a compare between the two. So that's that one. Pull that out of the way. So there we go. That's the difference between the two of them. Standard histogram transformation down at the bottom, and GHS at the top. You zoom in to the same level for both of them. I don't know which one you prefer. I think there's a bit more detail in there. You can certainly see a lot more detail in the nucleus, and you can actually see the nucleus over here, whereas you can't in this particular one here. You might be able to if you messed around with it a bit more, but I think that one's just about finished. Hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. And as I say, there will be a link to where you can download the GHS scripts and process into PixInsight below this video. And thanks very much for watching.